So, what's up, guys? It's Curly Q here. You don't know me, but I don't know you either. But it's okay. Um, so I really wanted to talk about operator buffs to really unpopular operators, but I think I found something a lot better to talk about because this will affect every single operator that has an LMG. Now, LMGs in Rainbow Six are pretty god awful, and they don't really have anything going for them right now that makes them better than an assault rifle in Rainbow Six. So first, I want to talk about the pros and cons, specifically the cons first, because that's what really drives people away from wanting to play with LMGs in this game. So what makes LMGs really bad in this game? First of all, they got really crappy damage. I'll show that in a little bit, but first I want to get onto the other stuff. They got lots of side-to-side recoil, which in this game is really hard to deal with, especially when you're dealing in long range, like combat, I guess. Like, dealing with people from far away with these LMGs are really, really bad. And you would think that they would be good in close quarters then, right? Well, they also have terrible ADS timing, which means that it takes a long time just to aim down the sight for an accurate shot. Now, in this game, time is of the essence in every single round. So when you have to spend about an entire second just aiming down the sight to get an accurate shot, you're going to have to peek the corner pretty slowly, which is not good for in this game. Definitely not. As well as that, they have awful hip fire. I'm pretty sure that's obvious to most people that attacker weapons have terrible hip fire. And also, they only have around like 2 or 3 magazines in reserve. Now, most people would tell me I'm stupid for mentioning that as a con, but they're LMGs, for God's sake. You're supposed to use them by spraying and praying. You're supposed to be, laying on that suppressive fire, and I'll get into that later. Now, what makes LMGs like a viable choice? Well, they're good at suppressing fire, which is fairly obvious to most players. When they choose an LMG, they see that, oh man, I got 100 rounds in my magazine, better spray and pray all the time. They're good. They're also good at dealing with multiple opponents because of the factor that you don't have to reload every like 2 or 3 engagements because of the 100-round magazines. Their CQP potential is high with their rate of fire because later in the raw stats of each LMG in the game, you're going to see that they have like a lot of a high speed in terms of rate of fire. They also have a lot of optic choices, just like an assault rifle, which means the attachments aren't the problem. They're good at wall banging. I mean, when you pre-fire a wall with 100 rounds, you're going to be using all of those rounds to get that free wall bang kill. As well as that, it has no bullet in the chamber. I don't know if that's a pro or con or whatever, but at least I don't have to reload twice when I reload like from 0 to 100. So I essentially went over the stereotypes of the 100-round magazine light machine gun in Rainbow Six Siege. But not all LMGs are that way. I just kind of explained how LMGs behaved from the get-go. But now I will be going on to talk about the raw stats and the uniqueness of each LMG compared to other LMGs in the game. This might take a little while, so I left timestamps in the description. Make sure to see those. I'm also going to put connotations or annotations or whatever that shit is to make sure that you can see the timestamps of each LMG. Now, I won't go in a particular order, except for what I think are the most interesting LMGs, I guess. But other than that, I'm just gonna get things started. To start off, I'm gonna hit up Capitao's LMG, the M249. Now, just as a quick, debriefing of this weapon, It's originally made by FN Herstal, the manufacturing company, but nobody really cares. It shoots 5.56 NATO rounds, which is pretty common in military grade, like assault rifles, light machine guns, etc. And it's also my favorite weapon in almost every single FPS shooter to date, at least every modern FPS shooter. You got Call of Duty 4, you got, well, most of the Call of Duties that were in modern times. You got Battlefield, and now you got Siege, bringing M249 into the game. So here are the raw stats. It's got 34 base damage, and it can't lose any more damage than that because it can't. You can't equip a suppressor on this thing. It shoots 650 rounds per minute, which for an LMG that's not very high, and you'll see why later on. It's got 50 mobility, whatever that is. It's got 100 bullets in the magazine with none in the chamber. Let's see. How is it unique? So, from my playing around with it in Terrorist Hunt, I discovered that it has this special destruction element to it purely in Terrorist Hunt. I was so dumbfounded by this discovery. I was like destroying hatches, I was breaking walls in mere seconds, I was just tearing through everything, and you're gonna see in the video the destruction I've seen not seen, but the destruction I've done to most walls and hatches and whatever the like. But you know, I really think that this could change the way people use LMGs in the game. Like, it could be an alternative to hatch breaching, if possible. Like, imagine if you, like an Ash or your Zofia died early in the round, and you're getting this hatch that isn't reinforced, but it'll help your team immensely. Now, you don't want to waste the Thermite Exo charge, you don't want to waste Hibana's X-Kairos pellets, so the next best thing would be that LMG. You shoot around 15 to 20 bullets into the hatch, like in the video, at least the footage that I got, and it'll be gone in no time. As well as that, it's actually the slowest shooting LMG that first released in the DLC. And I'm going to display other LMGs that have slow rates of fire, but not as slow as the M249 does. So now time to transition into IQ's LMG, the G8A1. I'm still going to do a little bit of history lesson shit for anyone that cares. It's originally made by the manufacturing company Heckler & Koch. It's also originally called the HK21. I don't know why they called it the G8A1 in Siege. And I also forgot that it's originally called the HK21. But besides that, it shoots 7.62 millimeter, which is basically like an AK-47 caliber. And I don't really know much else about this weapon. But anyway, let's go on to the raw stats of this weapon. It's got 37 base damage. It lowers down to 31 with the suppressor equipped. It shoots 850 rounds per minute. And it's got 50 mobility, whatever that is. And it's got 50 rounds with one in the chamber, which is pretty surprising. And now time to go on to its uniqueness. It's unique in the fact that it's the fastest shooting LMG to date in Siege so far. I don't know if they're going to add any more LMGs, but I might have to, talk about it in a different video. Anyway, it's got a funny looking foregrip, and if you equip it, it kind of leads to some visually impaired, I guess, impact, because IQ's fat hand, along with her little dumb wristwatch gadget, it kind of gets in the way in the middle of the screen, and it's pretty annoying sometimes. But besides that, it's the first non-belt fed LMG in in the OG Rainbow Six operator list. Its fire rate is only beat out by the F2, which is from Twitch, the R4C from Ash, the Scorpion from Ella, the T5 SMG from Legion, the Vector from Mira, the SMG 11 and 12, the C75 Auto, the Bearing 9, the P90, and the MP7. As well as that, it also has the least ammo in reserve. You know how I talked about only 2 to 3 magazines at the beginning of this video? Well, when you only have 150 in reserve, that's not really a lot for an LMG. And with the rate of fire, this thing empties its mag like crazy fast. You don't even realize it until you're reloading. But that's besides the point. Now time to move on to the next LMG. Now it's time for Fuze's LMG, the 6P41, or aka the PKP Peshnig. This weapon is awesome. I love it, and I have the same love for it like the M249, at least in FPS shooters. There's not really much to say about it in terms of history. I don't remember the exact name of the manufacturing company because it is in Russian, but it is originally made in Russia and shoots 7.62 millimeter. As well as that, it's I don't know. I guess it's just the most stereotypical LMG you can really picture in your head, at least in my opinion. Now time to go on to the raw stats. You got 47 base damage, with it lowers down to 39 with the suppressor equipped. It shoots 680 rounds per minute, which is pretty weird for that specific type of fire rate. It's got 50 mobility. Please Ubisoft, just clarify what that is. And it has 100 bullets in the magazine with none in the chamber, just like the M249. Now, how is it unique? Well, in the footage I'm about to show you, it's got hella damage. This thing is the most damaging LMG in the game by far. 47 base damage is enough to injure almost any operator in 3 shots, which includes the 3 armor operators, and that's pretty high. And with Rook armor, it's guaranteed to take around 4 shots. But besides that, it has great range, meaning that its damage fall off is not very high for this weapon, and it's actually kind of a hindrance if you put the suppressor on it, because the shots to kill increase for 2 armors and 3 armors, and also 1 armor players with rook plates. But there's not really anything else unique about this LMG except for its crazy ass damage. Now time to go over the most bitched about LMG in the gaming community so far for Siege. Ying's LMG, the T95 LSW, or otherwise known by its original name, the QBZ-95. This was originally made by Narinko and shoots a weirdly specific, bullet. It shoots 5.8 millimeter, which is weird, and it's most known for its ability to break down easily. It's not a very reliable weapon, but it does get the job done when you're only going in to save a hostage or something. So I guess in Siege, from a perspective for CTU operators, I guess the QBZ is actually pretty reliable. Let's see. We got the raw stats being 34 base damage, goes down to 28 with the suppressor. It shoots 650 rounds per minute, and also, just like almost every other gun in this game, has 50 mobility, and it has 80 bullets with 1 in the chamber, which I thought was pretty weird, at least when it came out, because the QBZ is usually an assault rifle, but the QBZ-95 in specific is an LMG. First, let's go on to its uniqueness. It was the first classified LMG to release with an angle grip. Now, this is a huge breakthrough for LMGs because their ADS times are garbage. And when this released, it was the fastest aiming LMG in the game. And that's why it was actually pretty good for peeking. Especially knowing that this is Ying's only ranged weapon to use other than her pistol, because the shotgun is her only other primary choice. But anyway, let's move on. It's got an odd amount of bullets for an LMG, in my opinion, with 80 bullets specifically, and it is tied with the M249 for the slowest rate of fire in the game. Not only that, but it has the addition of losing more potential damage if you add the suppressor. I urge you not to use the suppressor, at least right now. Not until maybe Ubisoft considers the changes I would like to make. But besides that, don't use this LMG with suppressor. Please, just don't. And if you're willing to have the increased recoil, please put an angle grip. It's really, really good. And put laser sight too. That shit's good. Now it's time to talk about the Xbox 360 gun, or Zofia's LMG, the LMG-E. I had to say LMG like 3 times, Jesus Christ. I tried to look up the history of this weapon, and it's most notable for having an airsoft gun variant, which is pretty surprising for me. I thought this would be an actual weapon, but apparently it's not really very known. But anyway, let's get on to its base stats. It has 32 base damage, or lowers down to 27 with the suppressor equipped. It's got 720 rounds per minute as its rate of fire, and 50 mobility, then there it is again. It's also got 150 rounds in the magazine. And now, time to tell you why it's unique. It is unique because it's got the most ammo in its magazine out of all the LMGs. 150 bullets, that is 50 extra bullets from the original 100, which is pretty good for an LMG in my opinion. It's also the first LMG that was belt fed, that had a 1 in the chamber mechanic in the game, but it was quickly removed when everyone started complaining about it, because everyone has OCD apparently. It's also the lowest damaging LMG in the game to date, and she's also relatively new for an operator, and yet she has the shittiest LMG in the game. It's got hella side-to-side recoil. Its vertical recoil is also kind of a bitch. Its damage is poor, so it takes like forever to kill people with body shots and leg shots and whatnot. But let me tell you something else. Just like Jackal's assault rifle, it has this weirdly jacked up ADS time. It's just as fast as Ying's LMG, the T95 or QBZ, or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of jacked up right now, and I don't know if that's how they wanted it or something, but that's just the way it is so far. So if you're using this, just understand that the ADS time is really, really good for this weapon. Just think of it as using Jackal, but with a hella ton of side-to-side recoil and like 0 fucking damage. If you're gonna use this weapon, make sure to pre-fire for the head only, because if you're gonna aim for body shots in every engagement, you're going to die in every engagement. And that's the LMG-E. Finally, let's talk about Jackal's SMG-LMG hybrid, the PDW-9. Now, this weapon in particular, I could not find much about the history on this again, because it's such a generalized title for a weapon that I'm not a gun nut, as you can tell. So I just tried to find some history on it, but I could not find any. If anyone knows the names of every single gun and all the manufacturing stuff, feel free to leave that in the comments. But anyway, I thought I would talk about Jackal's PDW9 as a little bonus thing, because I don't own Lion, because I don't have the season pass and I don't have enough renown yet. So I couldn't talk about the V308. But if anyone wants to add the raw stats of Lion's V308, again, just hit up those comments. Anyway, let's go on to the base stats of the PDW9. Much like Ying and Capitao's LMGs, it's got a base damage of 34, which lowers down to 28 with the suppressor equipped. It also has 800 rounds per minute as its rate of fire, and it's got 50 mobility, which is, again, not very explained by Ubisoft yet, and it's got 50 bullets with 1 in the chamber. Now, how is it unique? As you can tell, it's classified as an SMG, but holds all of the qualities of the LMG, of an LMG, yet it still has all the benefits of an SMG too. It's got the lowest recoil of the LMGs in most ARs for the attacking side. It's got angle grip, which is also a plus, and it's got the best hip fire out of all LMGs, ARs, and most SMGs. Now, as you can tell by the footage, it's so easy to land a headshot from far away with this thing just by hip firing. You don't even have to aim at people anymore. If you're fighting in a close quarter engagement, if you don't have time or to aim down the sight, or you just don't feel like aiming down the sight because it might mess you up or something, just feel free to hip fire. Put a laser sight if you want. This thing is so easy to hit shots with when you hip fire. That's all for the PDW9 and all the LMGs. Now that I've criticized all the good stuff and the bad stuff about LMGs, as well as talk about the uniqueness of each LMG in particular, I want to talk about the LMG rework that I want to have Ubisoft consider. First on my list, I want them to have lots of reserve ammo to encourage people to incorporate that sense of suppressive fire, because it's annoying when you reload twice and then realize that you have no bullets left and have to switch to your itty-bitty pistol. It's really stupid. But next on my list, please give all the LMGs, except for Jackal's PDW9 in specific, give them all the LMGs the destructive power of the M249 and Terrorist Hunt. This would create a lot of new play styles for the LMGs, as well as be technically a substitute for actually breaching. What if all your breachers die at the very beginning of the round? You can take the LMG as a failsafe if you need to. And I think that incorporates a lot of utility opportunities for operators like Ying, where they don't have to necessarily bring a breach charge just in case. Now you can just use the LMG as a normal breach tool. Next on my list, buff damage across the board. Please, not the PDW9. The something I forgot to mention is that the damage fall off is jacked up. Just like Jackal's assault rifle. It's just jacked up in the range. It's all fucked. It's the range fall off of this thing is so vague, and it barely even hinders the ability to injure people in mere seconds. But that's just something as a little note for you guys as well to fix. And also change all the recoil systems of each LMG to incorporate very low vertical recoil, but have a really high side to side, which would make them really easy to use in close quarters because you don't have to worry about pulling down on your mouse, at least not anymore, after the rework. And now all you have to do is worry about getting that alignment perfectly onto your opponent's head. And that's my proposal for reworking LMGs. Now, the end result of my proposal for the LMG rework would be that they would become a lot better at supporting their team, whether it be a substitute for a smoke grenade, you could give suppressive fire, and with the damage buff, it should see people more afraid to peek these LMG spray and prayers. Because like right now, if you peek an LMG that's pre-firing you, you can probably just crouch, and when they try to fix their aim to align to your head or your body or whatever, it won't do nearly enough damage to even phase that operator before you're dead. And I think it should be more of a risk to peeking people when applying that suppressive fire. As well as that, they'll be a lot easier to use in CQB situations. I know that LMGs are pretty good in CQB situations, but they could be a lot better, I'm just saying. As well as that, they could be good for destroying soft hatches, as in hatches that aren't reinforced. And it'll also encourage people to actually use the compensator attachment. That's something I don't see a lot in this game, people using the compensator attachment. Compensator, as opposed to flash hider and suppressor and extended barrel and muzzle brake and all that, specifically talking about the compensator, it's supposed to reduce the side-to-side recoil of a weapon to make it more consistent, so all you have to worry about is the vertical recoil. The flash hider, in comparison, makes it better for burst fire, as in firing maybe 3 to 7 or 3 to 10 shots with your weapon, while at the same time reducing the muzzle flash that you see when shooting through walls. And suppressors, obviously getting rid of the muzzle flash entirely, especially when shooting through smokes, and the muzzle brake being better for single shot firing, while at the same time keeping the vertical recoil very minimal. As for the extended barrel, there's not really much point to it unless you're using like a sniper or a DMR. But since none of the DMRs for some reason have an extended barrel, there's pretty much absolutely no use in the extended barrel at the moment. And range isn't even that much of a hindrance for the weapons that it does have, that do have the option to carry the extended barrel. Like take the R4C of Ash, for instance. Even if you put that extended barrel, fighting from long range is still super easy, and the damage is still really high for its weapon type. But before I go off on a tangent, I just really like to thank you guys for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more content. Be sure to suggest me some hot takes on Rainbow Six Siege content in specific. Like, hey, can you talk about how this operator sucks ass, or talk about how this weapon in particular is overpowered or something like that. And also, I'd like you guys to share this idea to Ubisoft using hashtag LMG Rework, whether it be on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. I just really like to get the word out to Ubisoft to consider this rework. Discord link is in the description if you feel like joining the community I'm trying to build up. Email down below if you want to contact me about like improvements I can make to my videos or new ideas, things like that. And also Twitter page link is also down there if you want to see it. Feel free to share me some pretty primo memes on Twitter if you so wish. But anyway, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button, that motherfucking like button if you liked the video. If you disliked the video, tell me why in the comments down below. And other than that, have a great day.